All right, welcome into another edition of Onorato and Bagnardi. I'm Chris Onorato. He's Sean Bagnardi. Oh, wait a minute. That's not right. That is not right. I am Sean Bagnardi. Chris is on vacation this week, so not only do we have a special guest, we have a special guest host. He is a guy who is very familiar to faces across the capital region. And Chris and I always say the best help is free help. So the man, the myth, meteorologist, Paul Caiano with us today. Paul, first of all, thank you so much for doing this, man. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking me. This is like an honor. I mean, we talk sports all the time, but, to do it at this level is great for me. It's something I've never done before.
Yeah, so you obviously are a big Yankees fan, big Islanders fan. Something really caught my eye this week about the Yankees and about a Yankee legend, Yankee royalty. So we're going to get into that on the show. Also, we're not going to just not hear from Chris, okay? I mean, he wouldn't allow that to happen. His name is first on the show, of course. So Chris and I last week caught up with a World Series champion, Ian Anderson, when he returned home to the Capital Region. We're going to play you that interview in full in case you missed it. Spoiler alert, we do crack open a bottle of wine, so that is interesting. You're going to want to see that.
That'll be nice.
Yeah, I know you've got a bottle of wine with you right now for this.
I'm never too far from that stuff.
We've got our Pick Six Vodka Games of the Week. Paulie is going to pick on behalf of a buddy of his, so we'll get his take on some of the interesting matchups coming up. And then, I got to ask you about your Islanders off to a slower start. The Rangers off to a good start, so we'll get into the hockey too. And then if we have a little time, I'm going to ask Paul some questions about, what you see him do every single day for a living, being a meteorologist. Let's get after it, Paulie.
This is Onorato and Bagnardi, brought to you by Outfit House.
All right, back in on the show here. We'll start with a little bit of good mornings here. Jason saying good morning, Bags. And Paul, yeah, it's crazy.
Right.
We've upgraded this week, and if Paul does what I think he's about to do here, we might have to rename the show. David, also, good morning to you. All right, Paul, let's get into it here. I know you saw it because I sent it to you. Free agent shortstop, Carlos Correa, a guy who very well could have the Yankees as a destination, had this to say on a podcast: Derek Jeter didn't deserve, not one, not two, didn't deserve any of the 5 gold gloves that he won in his career. Now, my immediate reaction to this was, as a baseball guy, first of all, he's young. This guy's in his mid-20s. How much Jeter did he really see? But we'll set that aside for a second here. As just a shortstop, as a Major League Baseball player, isn't this kind of like going into the Vatican and being like, this guy is a little overrated here? What was your reaction when you saw this?
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. It's like, how could he do that? If anything else, professional courtesy, right? You always see these guys boosting each other up and talking good. And listen, if you're going to be better than the guy, then why don't you boost him up even more so that if it turns out that you're in his history will write it eventually better than him, then you've already elevated him, right?
Yes. Now I want to ask you, do you feel like you might have some rose-colored glasses when it comes to Derek Jeter? Because, look, he was one of the best players of his time. He was almost a unanimous Hall of Fame guy. He's just remembered as a winner. But does Correa have a little bit of a point here in terms of his defense? Now, I know you don't like the deep dive analytic stuff, and I don't usually either, but we got to give the guy his chance. And I looked up.
Let's hear it.
Numbers. Yeah. So now, again, this is more of the advanced analytics. Okay. First of all, Jeter, by the way, he won his Gold Gloves later in his career. He didn't win his first one until 2004. He won 3 in a row, and then again in 2009 and 2010. But if you start looking at some of the advanced metrics, and I'll the ultimate zone rating per 150 games. I'll be honest,
All right.
don't know what that is, but it gave him a rating of minus 5.9, which put him 21st out of 24 qualified shortstops over the time when he won his Gold Gloves.
Okay.
He had a 7.7 defensive WAR, okay, in that span. That was good for 18th, and he was minus 92 in defensive runs saved over that span, which was actually dead last. So he wasn't a guy who, with his defense, was saving the Yankees a lot of runs. If you go into the advanced analytics, does that matter to you?
Well, you know me in analytics. I'm not a huge analytics guy, but I am a numbers guy. I mean, I do numbers every day with the weather. I got to do stats, I got to do history, numbers, and all, and it matters. So it definitely means something. But I still think you just have to watch the games. And watch the games that he was in, how important they were, when he made the plays at the time he made them. And I think that's when you really get a grasp of the impact that he's had. And so maybe some game in May and, he may not have come up with a ball or reached a ball that the analytics will say that he could have gotten or whatever. But I think that takes a back seat to my own two eyes. And it should take a backseat to your two eyes and everyone who watches the game. And I think that's a big problem of the game in general nowadays, that everyone wants to play it on paper rather than just watch the game and do what feels right.
So you would say you don't have rose-colored glasses because you're going by what you saw. Do you think he gets a little bit more credit than he deserves because he made the spectacular plays, right? So he might not have had the greatest range, although that's hard to believe when I think about him going toward the third base side and making that throw across his body, right? That's just classic Jeter that you remember in your head, right? But do you think, though, because he made the spectacular plays, that maybe then you overlook some of where there could have been deficiencies?
I mean, there could have been that, but let's remember a couple of things. I mean, Jeter, he wasn't the first shortstop that was his size, right? But he was beginning an era, at the beginning of an era, where shortstops didn't make those plays. I mean, there were some really, really good shortstops, but there weren't shortstops that were his build that made those kind of plays. So remember, the Hall of Fame and all that kind of stuff, Gold Glove, it's all in the era that you played. And I still think that he was one of the better ones at going to his right, making that play in the hole. And also his arm was incredible, right? So yeah, I mean, there might be a little rose-colored glasses, but I don't think that it factors, at least in my mind, that much because of the fact that he was in his element at his time playing his game, and people didn't really see that much.
So now the bigger question: if you are, and you are a Yankees fan, if you are the Yankees, does this impact whether or not you would sign a free agent who is a pretty good player, a good shortstop? This guy who had 279 last year, 26 home runs, 92 ribbies, and he's a 277 career hitter. So that's just not a good year. That's what you're going to get from him. Is that something the Yankees have already said, look, his past with the cheating scandal, that stuff we would set aside. You almost have to set this aside, too, from the business decision standpoint. Or no, do you say we're not going to bring in a guy who has messed with the royalty of Derek Jeter in the public?
Yeah, I'm with the former, right? I think you put that aside. It's all business. I mean, this guy, if he can help the team, you got to get him. And plenty of players, plenty of managers have said plenty of things about one another while in the dugout. I'm old enough to remember the Yankees when Billy Martin was the manager, and he and Reggie would go toe-to-toe in the dugout, So if it was about a little bit of a conflict, you can't let that get in the way of what would put the best team on the field would be. Now, whether that's the case with Correa or not, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's somebody else for the money who might benefit the Yankees more. And you and I have talked about this, that sometimes you can't have all your players as your number one player, right? You need to have role players. So he's got to fit in, and if they decide and that he properly fits in and he's where they need him in the lineup and so forth, then I say go for it. You put this stuff aside. Jeter's the owner of Florida. I mean, it's in Miami. So it's, I mean, like, it's talking about other teams and loyalties. I mean, look at that.
Right. I think Jason makes a good point here too. The Yanks have signed plenty of hated Red Sox. It's all about what you do. If he produces, they bring him in and he does great. That's going to become a distant memory for them. All right. Derek Jeter, talked about it, one of your favorite players of all time. You've been in the house for a lot of Yankee games, a lot of Jeter games, including Jeter's final game. But there's another Yankee game that kind of stands out that I know you have a cool story about. Can you tell us, or the O&B viewers, can you reveal to them what that story is, please?
It's kind of phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, I had I was fortunate enough to and you would be able to look this guy up. His name is Joe Gregory. He's actually Albany fire chief right now, but at the time he was, I believe, just an EMT or just a firefighter.
I don't think just an EMT. My God, we have EMT viewers here. Just an EMT. Come on.
When you compare it to the fire chief,
Okay.
I would think there's a little bit of a hierarchy going on there, right? You talk about royalty. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Sure. I mean, as a civil servant, he was an EMT, and his father happened to be the clubhouse attendant for the umpires at Yankee Stadium during the 80s and 90s. So I was able to be introduced to Joe at the time, who introduced me to his father. And he said, anytime you come down to the stadium, you go to that media gate and you ask for me. So a friend of mine and I went to Yankee Stadium. It was the year after the Yankees had gotten beaten by the Mariners, that first wild card series that was in 95. So we said, we want to see the Mariners. So we went to a game in 96. It was like a weeknight. And we said, what the hell? Let's go see if Steve is available. So we went to the media gate, like he said. We dropped his name. And sure enough, he comes up with these two media passes, visitor passes, says, come with me. So we went downstairs into what they call the catacombs of Yankee Stadium and going through these hallways. I have no idea where I am, but I'll tell you one thing, Sean, that as a kid, growing up 20 minutes from Yankee Stadium, for me to be down in the basement of Yankee Stadium and walking around where the players are, where all the historical players are and were, it was just, I mean, I was on cloud nine. I couldn't believe it. But I'm walking through here. He's taking us to past the Yankee clubhouse, and he introduced us to the grounds crew, the other security people. We went out onto the field. It was way before the game. I think this was even at for a night game. This was at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it was pretty early. The players, a lot of them hadn't even, gone out on the field yet. But anyway, so we go to the umpire's locker room where he's setting up the umpire stuff for the game. They haven't even arrived yet. And he says, I got a lot of little things to do. Do you want to help me rub the mud on the baseballs? Now they have the special mud that they do every single game, and the umpires, because you take the ball out of the bag and it doesn't have the grip, so they have to put mud on it for the grip. So my friend and I were like, hell yeah, we want to do this. This is great. So I don't know, 6 or 7 dozen baseballs. He's showing us how to rub the mud on the baseballs and the right way to do it, and the way.
What is the right way? How is there a wrong way?
It's nah, I mean, I don't believe I did anything wrong, but I mean, you have to do it evenly. You can't put a big blob of mud on one side of the ball and leave the other side. It's just to spread it even. Don't do too much, but enough that it's covering the ball and it's got a little bit of a grip to it. So there's a little time involved with each one. It's not like it's not a throwaway thing, so to speak. But
how many? How many?
It was about, at the time, I think they used about 6 or 7 dozen baseballs, okay. Or at least they had that many ready. I think they probably have more now. They throw away every ball right after every pitch. They throw a ball away, so they probably have to have a couple hundred balls now per game. But at this time, I think if I remember correctly, it was about 6 or 7 dozen, and they had a big canvas bag there. And we started getting into it. I mean, we were saying, Edgar Martinez, and we rubbed the ball, strikeout, and we drop it in the bag. Jay Buhner, strikeout, and so forth. So we were having a good time. We were having a couple of beers from the umpire's cooler and just hanging out. So time goes by. We are shown around, and then he asks us if we have tickets for the game. Steve Gregory, and we were like, nah, we're just going to get some upper deck seats. We'll go back out and buy a couple tickets. So he goes, no, hold on, you wait right here. So he goes away and he comes back and he's got tickets for us that are behind home plate. that are under the screen where the players and the umpires' families sit behind the plate. So we're like, oh my God, we can't believe this. And we still have these passes. So we go back outside and we tailgate a little bit more because it's still really early. And then we go back in, take these seats, which are absolutely incredible, and watch this baseball game that we just rubbed the mud on the baseballs for. And it turns out to be Dwight Gooden's no-hitter. So we couldn't believe it.
Yeah, no, it's shocking. And I obviously am not going to have the reaction now that I had the first time you told me, because I knew the ending. But that is incredible, the fact that you rubbed down Doc Gooden's balls before that game. But
not only that, I rubbed mud on him.
Exactly. So you obviously take credit for that one. No, that's one of my favorite sports stories that you tell, man. That is awesome. And the fact that, of course, you got to stay and be a part of that game, that is really, really cool. So thank you for sharing that story with us.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, it's a memory, obviously, I'll always have. I tell my kids, I'll be telling my grandkids, and probably nobody will believe me, but I have the ticket still. So
right.
I was there for sure.
All right, so coming up on Onorato and Bagnardi, Paulie's going to stay with us here for the full hour. He's going to go through our Pick 6 Vodka games of the week, 6 really interesting games that we've got selected for you. The Jets are going to be starting Joe Flacco. That's interesting. The Giants, Monday night, are they going to be able to cover a big spread against a Buccaneers team coming off a loss? So we'll get into all of that. But on the other side of this break, Chris Onorato and myself catch up with World Series champion Ian Anderson. He was back home after winning it all. You're going to want to see this. Stay tuned.
Raging fire, flood waters rising higher and higher. And when it's over, well, what then? Will it ever look like home again? Professional fire restoration, cleaning up a messy situation. Ceiling to floor, even better than before. Professional fire restoration.
Your quality of sleep can have a huge impact on your health and your relationship. Get your life back with the game changer in sleep apnea treatment. A custom-fit mouthpiece from Dr. Frederick Dreyer. It stops snoring instantly. Call the Integrative Sleep Center today.
At Marcella's Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on. For cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair, you can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day, like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, Genair, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
And now, back to Onorato and Bagnardi. Brought to you by Outfit House.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Onorato and Bagnardi. A couple of idiots and a World Series champion here at the Impact Center in Half Moon. What a beautiful facility that the Herder family is part of, and of course Kevin a big part of that. But we're here to talk to the World Series champ from Atlanta, Ian Anderson. Bags, do you feel like you're in some presence of greatness?
Royalty, man. I mean, I'm waiting to see the ring when that comes in. That's gonna be the big thing. But thank you so much, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you guys.
This feels we're missing something, though.
Oh, yeah?
There was a theme to the postseason in Atlanta.
Right.
And so,
look at this clown.
Without having people yell at me, let's do a little wine club on Onorato and Bagnardi.
I love it.
I'll taste it.
All right. Now, this is from our buddy, Craig Allen, All-Star Wine and Spirits in Latham.
Okay.
And he has some racehorses, and this is one of them, Rinaldi. Now, this isn't probably in, your price range.
What is the most expensive bottle of wine you've popped up?
That doesn't matter. It's not about that.
Fair enough.
It's not about that.
Okay.
We're going to keep this off the hardwood floor.
Yeah, don't spill.
No.
He's not spilling it.
This will be the last time in here for us, as well as the first time.
All right, well, cheers, man, to your championship, dude.
I was quick to
The wine club. Now, you're the expert.
Nice. Yeah. Now you do the swirl
what do
around
you
the whole
say?
thing.
Yeah, definitely swirl.
Yeah.
That's good.
Now,
I
how
enjoy
did
it.
how did this happen? You're 23. I wouldn't say you've got a ton of experience in vineyards.
No.
How did this happen that you were one of the, I would say, foremost prominent guys in the Braves clubhouse swapping wine bottles?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of just got into it. I was bringing wine all year for the most part. My parents drank wine, my grandparents.
Okay.
And Ben picked up a job in the off season, from the minor league off season at Regal Wine and Liquor over here. So, gotta give them a shout out. And he kind of got into it. So, me and him kind of dove into it, and that's kind of where the love for wine kind of took off.
This is what I like about Chris. The World Series champion, and your first question to him is about wine.
Those are the important questions.
What would you like to talk about, right? Yeah, come on.
So how many times now have you been asked, what's it like to be a champion? And all right, I guess you kind of have to start there. Like, what's it like? It's obviously a great feeling. Does it live up to it, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, it lives up to it.
Yeah.
It definitely does. Just to be able to go through the whole experience, just what we went through, the satisfaction, I think, is the biggest thing. When you're in it, you kind of hope to be there and think you can be there, but once it happens, it's a pretty fulfilling feeling. So,
do you feel like you've gotten to the mountaintop too quickly? I mean, how do you sustain this? You talked a little bit about it, like, hey, we just want to stay where we are. We're not too worried about elevating, right? We just have to, it's such a long year. You're so young. How do you just maintain?
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be the tough part. That's what they say. It's harder to stay atop the mountain than get up there. So, we have a good group. We have good coaches. We have guys that are still hungry. I think, we know we have a chance to be pretty special, and I think that's, going to be fun. You look at guys like Acuna and Soroka, guys that even Charlie that didn't get to fully experience it, that are going to be hungry next year coming back. So, we're going to try to feed off of them, and we still have more to prove, and I think that it's going to be exciting.
All right, so I want to talk about the game you pitched, obviously, in the World Series, but the one you didn't pitch, that's the one I wonder about, because obviously you're not going to root against your team. But was there a small part of you as a competitor thinking, I could get the ball in Game 7 of the World Series? That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah, it would have been awesome, definitely. And I had confidence, but, Max had been unbelievable all season, and up for all MLB, won the Silver Slugger, Gold Glove, you name it. So, had all the confidence in the world in him. Just he had that look in his eye. I'd seen it a few times, and every time he's gone out and shoved. So, that's the fun part about it, building the relationship, seeing these guys, and watching them go out there. And it is nerve-wracking, but
you're nervous.
I'm nervous watching our guys. Yeah, you want them to do so well. That's the thing. That's where it gets tough for me.
And you obviously feel like you had no control in that moment.
Yeah.
Do bullpen guys are they nervous, or do they feel like I'm going to have a chance in this game, so I'm in a little bit of control?
I think it's more that.
Okay.
I was down in the bullpen for one game, game 4 of the NLCS.
Yeah.
And there's just a sense of, I want to get in there and help out. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
How important is it when you get the ball in a bigger game like the World Series for you to make sure you kind of keep your routine the same? Or is it different and it's okay to be different because it's such a bigger start? Do you prepare differently?
Yeah, I think I kind of like what you said the second part. I kind of tried to take it all in and enjoy it. I mean, it's the World Series. Like, we had a couple other guys that I played with, Tucker Davis, who made a start. And just to see that, I mean, I was telling him, you making a start in the World Series. Like, it's not, did you ever think you'd be doing this? Like, I just tried to enjoy it, and I think that kind of took a little bit of pressure off of me. And now once the first pitch was thrown, then it was more of like, okay, I'm in it, I better get going. But it was special.
Did you say more bad words to Snitker or Rick when you got pulled early in the postseason games?
Oh, no bad. No love lost. No love lost. We got
but
it.
you never want to come
done.
out, right?
No, you don't want to come out. You definitely don't want to come out. But, the situations were a little different. We had a rested bullpen, day off coming up in a couple of the games. So.
And the pinch hitting move worked out.
And the pinch hitting move was a couple times worked out. So.
True.
Yes, I thought Snit did an unbelievable job.
Yeah.
he was a great leader for us and someone that we looked up to, and his presence just kind of helped us stay on track the whole year.
What did he say to you when he came up to you to take you out? You're pitching great in the World Series. You haven't given up any hits. What's the conversation there?
Yeah, he said that I think we're going to go to the bullpen, and
he knows.
He's great, and shakes everyone's hand after you come out of the game, and that always means a lot. You left it all out there no matter what. So I held on a little bit and said, "Are you sure?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Are you sure?" And he said, "Yeah." And so I kind of knew, and I let go, and had to watch. But
you said
it worked out.
You mentioned the Freed Silver Slugger. Have you taken your final major league at bat in your career?
Yeah, I guess that's up to be decided here in a little bit. So
you are Team DH, are you not?
Yeah, I'm Team DH, definitely.
Yeah.
I guess I put my last career at bat in play, so
you did. That's
a
true.
positive.
Yeah.
So we kind of think of you as a guy who, if you have a rock solid first inning, it really sets the tone for you. Is the first inning feel different for you? And is that running through your mind of like, okay, if my stuff is good here, I'm really going to be able to settle in and relax?
Yeah, I've struggled in the first inning of my career, definitely. So you guys are spot on with that. Yeah, it's something where if I get through there, I know there's a lot of guys like that.
Sure. Is it an adrenaline thing? It's just you got to settle down?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've tried messing around with some things, warming up and different things, but I think it's one of those things that takes a little time to get my pitches in a groove, and once that happens, it's trying to keep the hitters off balance.
When do you know, like if your stuff isn't going to be great for a particular day, any day, regular season, whatever, do you know that like pregame, like warming up in the pen, or is it like, first inning is where I can really find out how my stuff is working, and then how do you try to adjust?
Yeah, there's like a Roger Clemens quote out there. It was 32 starts in a year, you're going to make 6 really good, 6 really bad, and the other 20 you're going to have to figure it out. So I think it's kind of that's kind of the mindset you got to take. You might not have it, but you're going to have to go out there and try to get the best hitters on the planet out. So you got to have some confidence. You got to trust your stuff, trust your ability, and trust the guys behind you, I think, too.
Your senior year at Shen, you dealt with a little bit of an injury, right? I know you didn't make a ton of starts, and then this year you deal with a little bit of an injury. How are you feeling now, even in the postseason? Did you feel like you were still working through some of the shoulder?
Yeah, I think when I first came back, I wasn't kind of where I wanted to be, but that's, it was a new process going through that at the big league level. So it took me a little bit of time, but as the starts kind of went on towards the end of the regular season, I felt like I was in a good spot, and I was able to carry that in the postseason. So
you have a ball that you threw that is in Cooperstown, man.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I know.
Put that into some kind of words for me.
It's pretty unbelievable. Yeah, I had a chance to. I was on MLB Network talking with Pedro too about the changeup too, and I was just like, man, love this guy. I don't know what else to say. So, but it was it was pretty special. I think Rosario has a bat going in, Freddie has a bat, Will Smith some spikes, and then the Pearls, obviously.
And that stuff all comes through Albany, which is cool, man.
I know. I saw that. That was cool.
Was there a hitter? I mean, you don't fear anybody, but was there one or two guys in that Astros lineup you circled as being like this? I've got it. If I can get this guy, I'm going to be okay.
I mean, going in, I think it was Alvarez. The series he put up against Boston was pretty impressive.
I mean, you got shut down.
I think we did a good job. We pitched him really well. And I mean, Altuve, Gurriel, they had the batting champ hitting 7th. So
you didn't hear any trash can banging the whole series?
No. I mean, they were booing Altuve.
Of course.
And that might have been one of the loudest times I've heard the stadium.
Bird said, Paul Bird, who we had on the show, Shawnee, said he's never heard an Atlanta crowd like the one that was
it's the
behind
first World
you
Series
guys.
game since 95, so.
99, but we don't like to talk about 99 because they got swept.
That's true.
But it's the first title.
Been a while. That's
it's the first title in
22 years. Yep.
So you weren't even born then, right?
No, Kelly asked me about that.
Yeah, so like, did you
she said something about, I don't know, like the last time the Braves won was 95.
Yeah, and you're like,
how old? And I was like, I wasn't born yet.
Zero.
Tried to cut her off really quick.
Did you feel kind of the pressure from the city, like, it has been a while and these fans really want this? This isn't something that comes around every day for these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we felt, pressure, so to speak. I think the biggest pressure we felt was trying to get past the Dodgers, and then once we got to the World Series, it was, we have a chance to make this thing happen, why not do it? So I think the fans gave us great support, if any, not a ton of pressure, but more support.
Was the World Series the most challenging series for your team in the postseason, or no?
Man, I think you look at all of them. Charlie going down in the World Series was tough, but we had guys like AJ step up and do really well. And yeah, just getting over the hurdle of the Dodgers, I think, was huge. And getting through the big three, so to speak, in Milwaukee was. Oh yeah. I mean, they got to put that up there. So.
Did your mindset change when it's like there's going to be a couple of bullpen games in this World Series? They really are going to need me. I mean, I've got to be really good. I've got to go deep in the game too, as deep as I can. Is that something that factored into how you prepared, or you just kind of have to go?
And that's the game when the series is tied at 1 too, by the way.
Yeah, I think I think it would have been different if we were up 2-0. I would have tried to go out there and eat some innings up, but. 1-1, you got to keep those guys off the board and give your team a chance to win. So that was kind of the mindset I took.
The parade looked insane. You looked like you were having a good time, which I appreciate.
I had a great
man.
time.
You were decked out in the Chavez hat,
which
was pretty awesome. I don't know if your parents were still in town for the parade, but to experience all of you did with them, what does that mean?
Yeah, that was special. Like I said, I got a picture with my dad. I was like, come on, get a picture. You can touch it. Like, it's not going to bite. But,
not the Stanley Cup.
And I knew he wanted to. He's been a baseball guy his whole life and will be. So that was special. They picked up for basically the whole month. They were down in Georgia and traveling to LA, Houston. So that was special to have them there.
How long do you enjoy it now before you turn the page to next season? Chris and I, we'd be still partying to the All-Star game next year, and we'd be 20 games under 500.
Although here's the thing, because I'm a Braves fan, I'm immediately texting some of my buddies who are also Braves fans. I'm like, could you imagine if the lineup looks like this next year? So I'm already on the next year.
Exactly. But that drives us. That drives us, and. That's what keeps us going.
But to answer Sean's question, I know you haven't picked up a ball yet. Ben's already throwing, you said, by the way.
He is, he's working out and throwing, so I'm sure he'll be dragging me in there sooner than I would probably want to be in there.
Right.
But that's part of it.
Well, I got to ask you the last question for me, man. I know we can get you out of here, but you're so
finished his wine yet.
No, that's true. You're so calm. One thing everybody always points out about you is like his demeanor. He acts like he could be out throwing a game at Shen, so. When you have that mind, how is it you're able to stay so calm in such a pressure spot?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are you calm?
It's racing a little bit, but I think, I think it's one of those things where you have to try to find different things you can use to your advantage, and I think that's one of the things that I've kind of grabbed onto. It's the ability to kind of slow the game down and kind of assess the situation and then, make the decision. So, because there's going to be guys that have more talent. It's the best players on the planet, and you got to find a way to make the difference. And I think that's something that's helped me quite a bit. Kind of have some of the success that I've been able to have so far.
You rather pitch at home or on the road?
I love pitching at home. Okay. That whole playoffs, I don't think I made a road start. I pitched at home every time, and we won every game, so we'll take that.
You pitched a lot of road games last year in the postseason. Good to have you pitching at home this year. Listen, you're pulled in 1,000 different directions. We know that, and yes, we still bug you to do stuff like this, but we do appreciate the time, man.
Yeah,
congratulations, a World Series champion. From Clifton Park, New York, Rexford to be exact, and even some national broadcasters have figured out Shenandoah Hoa.
They're getting there. They are.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That is.
Ian, congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Teams, athletes, organizations. We're transforming the custom apparel industry through products and purpose. Claim your crown.
Not using your CPAP? Don't get banished to the couch. Dr. Frederick Dreyer can help with a custom-fit device you can't see or hear. Just pop it in and get a good night's rest. Call the Integrative Sleep Center today. Now that's more like it.
Well, ultimately, what we're looking for is fun on the snow. One of the things that we're finding that people don't realize is that your skis need constant maintenance. And by using our brand new Wintersteiger Mercury machine, we can make sure that we're always restoring your skis back to those factory settings. Going out with rusty ski edges, you're not going to be able to grip the snow properly. You're not going to be able to really carve into the ice the way that your ski's designed to perform. But after having a fresh tune-up on the Wintersteiger Mercury machine at Alpenhaus, all of that's possible.
And now your weekly NFL Pick'em, presented by Pick 6 Vodka.
All right, back in on Onorato and Bagnardi with our special guest host, Paul Caiano. Thanks again to Ian Anderson for doing that with us. Paul, we do these picks every week. Pick 6 Vodka is the sponsor. Eligible for swag if you want to take us on and see how you can do. The viewer won the swag last week going 4-2. You are picking on behalf of a buddy of yours, Earl Manning. So he is our Pick 6 contestant this week, but you got to make the picks so that you could defend them and talk about them here on the show.
Right.
I got to show this. I don't want to show this. This is what we did last week.
Ooh.
So basically what I'm telling you is you got a really good chance here. Chris, 1-5, following up on my 0-6 week. The prior week, I went 3-3, but again, not enough to beat the viewer at 4-2. And now you see the viewer overall at 28-32 is now just one game behind Chris, who completely fell off the table last week. So let's get into it here. Our first game, the Colts at the Bills. Now, Buffalo is a team all year Chris and I have, I think, struggled with because it's usually a really big spread. They've been favored by a lot in a lot of their games. And I've said, look, you just got to go with this team. But then 2 weeks ago, they really laid an egg and got embarrassed in their game. But then last week rebounded against, of course, the New York Jets. So the Colts and the Bills, your thoughts, Mr. Caiano?
Well, yeah, you're trying to figure out if the Bills are going to really show up, or I mean, they're kind of, schizophrenic, right? When it comes to these games against the spread, that you don't know if you're going to get that extra half a point. It's more than a touchdown. So I think it's going to be tough. I think as we get deeper into the season, these teams, they're starting to jockey for the playoff position. So I'm going to go with the Colts on this one, thinking that the Bills are still going to win, but it's just going to be a closer game.
Interesting. So there you see it. Chris is with you. He is going with the Colts as well on this one. Now, this spread was 7 when we looked at this. We obviously can't have a push, so bumped that up to 7.5, and that made it a little bit trickier for me. If it had gone down by a half, then I would have said, yeah, they're going to win by a touchdown. The difference for me here was really this game's at home. So I said, you know what? Give me the Bills, and I like being on an island here in this one. We always look at who's going to be on the island in these games. Who's going opposite the other two if it's not a clean sweep right across the board. And that's your chance, look, to make up ground or to lose ground in this. So I'm okay if the Bills are going to be where I got a chance to make up some ground on Chris, because I really need to do that. All right, my New York Jets. I'll take the lead on this one, Paulie. They're going with Joe Flacco this week, which is interesting. They've got this whole thing with a Flacco trade where he's got to play a certain amount, and then the 6th-round pick that they got becomes a 5th-round pick. It's very bizarre. But the reality is Zach Wilson's not ready to go. White, after his really good game against the Bengals 2 weeks ago, not so good last week against the Bills. And coach was like, you know what, this Dolphins team, they run a lot of schemes, a lot of tricky defense that we think the veteran Joe Flacco would be better suited to handle. So I look at this, they're at home, it's a division game, the spread is 3.5.
No, don't do it.
I mean, the Dolphins are not good. But I didn't do it, Paulie. I went with the Dolphins. Who do you go with here?
I also went with the Dolphins, but only because, not only, but one of the factoring, I got to win this swag for my buddy, and I just can't, I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I lost because I beat the Jets. I wouldn't be able to hear the end of this. I have to go with the Dolphins here. The Jets are not that the Dolphins are so great, but every time you try to rely on the Jets or they give you a little bit of a good feeling, you feel like they let you down. And you know this more than anybody. Being a Jets fan, I've watched them over the years, and with some exceptions, of course, but they're just the type of team that has the ability to disappoint you so much. I'm not going to be disappointed by the Jets this week.
Here's the thing with the Jets, though, that could be bad news for all three of us, which really isn't bad news because if we all pick the same, there's no winning or losing on this one. But it seems like every week, whatever I pick with the Jets, they go out and do the opposite. So maybe that's a good sign for the Jets this week. Knowing my luck, they'll lose by a field goal, so they'll still lose the game, and then I'll still lose the bet. Yeah. All right, third game here on the docket for us. The Packers, they've got Rodgers back, looked decent last week. They're at a division opponent on the road, favored by 2.5. Are you taking the Vikings at home with the points, or are you taking Rodgers and the Pack?
I think this whole Rodgers thing is hopefully behind the Packers for their sake. Not that I think it should be in general, but in these division games, especially in this division, they oftentimes favor the home team, right? I mean, you see the Vikings showing up at home, and it's a big game, division game, the playoff jockeying again. But I think Rodgers is back now. I think that the team is going to be more settled down. They're going to be able to stick to a game plan. And the spread, I'll say only 2.5. I think they'll win it by a field goal, even in Minnesota. So I'm going to go with the Packers.
I'm with you here on this one. The 2.5 can't scare you because it's basically a pick 'em. And yeah, you just have to take the better team. I know division games on the road can be tricky in the NFL. And Minnesota is not a pushover. I mean, that's not necessarily the easiest place to go and play. But yeah, I agree with you. Rodgers is just too good. This Packers team is too good. You know, they're trying to really assert themselves as the class of the NFC. We saw Tampa Bay take a little bit of a step back last week. The Rams, people wondering what's going on with them. They seem to get better with Von Miller and OBJ joining that team. But then they went out last week and laid an egg. So, yeah, I think Green Bay, as they look to really assert themselves in the NFC, this is a game they go out and win by at least a field goal. So that spread there, not enough to scare me off of the Pack. All right, moving on to game 4 here. The Dallas Cowboys at the Chiefs. So the Chiefs had a pretty good rebound performance. They've looked kind of down this season, not living up to expectations, but they really handed it to the Raiders last week. If I had told you preseason at this point, one of these teams in this matchup was going to be 7-2 and the other one's going to be 6-4, you would have had it reversed. You'd have said the Chiefs have 7 wins. But that's not the case. Dallas has had a good season at 7-2. Do they have enough to go into Kansas City and cover that very small spread there or even win this game?
I don't think so. I think it's tough to go into Kansas City at any time. But watching the Chiefs over the last couple of weeks, it seems to me, especially the second half of last week's game, I think they're starting to figure it out. And I think they're starting to look more like the Chiefs that we had grown accustomed over the last couple of years of seeing, right? So, Mahomes, I was watching that game last week, and it was pretty close for a while. And then I stepped away for a little bit. I had a couple of things to do, came back, and it was a blowout. And I think that you're starting to see the real Chiefs here. I think you're also looking at the type of team that's playing with a little bit of urgency. They probably weren't expecting to have lost so many games at this point. And you just can't see them losing too many more games. I don't think this is going to be one of them.
Yeah, they're too good. They're too high-powered when they get it going on offense. And at home, this should be a good game. I expect it to be a close game. And this is a game where, if despite Kansas City struggles, if Dallas goes into Kansas City and wins, we have to start talking about Dallas really entering that conversation, what I was just talking about with the Packers, of being serious contenders in the NFC. And I think a lot of people probably think they're already there. I don't know. They're the best team in a not great division for sure. But are they up there with the Packers? Are they up there? But you have to start looking at the win total too. I mean, if they can accumulate enough wins, and you start talking about them hosting a playoff game at Jerry World against a good opponent like a Green Bay, that could be the difference as opposed to if they have to go to Lambeau. So this is a big one really for both teams. Curious to me is like who needs it more? Probably the Chiefs, given the situation that they're in with their division and the season that they've had so far. But this could really be a banner game for the Cowboys as well. All right, we've got your Steelers. We pick a Sunday night game every single week. We've got your Pittsburgh Steelers at the Chargers. The Chargers favored by 4.5 here at home. Your Steelers coming off a rousing tie to the Detroit Lions. What do you think, Paul?
It's hard for me to pick against the Steelers just because I'm such a big fan. But I mean, you're looking at Roethlisberger being out. It's still not, as far as I can tell to this point, when I looked up, that he's not playing. They're making the game plan for Rudolph. And they even have a couple of their receivers out from earlier in the season, and Minka Fitzpatrick is out. So it's tough, and TJ Watt. So they're definitely limping into this game. But I still have to have faith in Mike Tomlin. I have to have faith in Steelers Nation that we have to get this done. It's a dogfight in this division. And even despite last week, I think having that game under his belt would prepare Rudolph to start this game and hopefully come up with a better outcome than last week. I have to go with the Steelers, my team. I have to do it.
You just did a very Chris Onorato thing there. You made my argument for me, and then at the very end, you said you're going with the opposite. You switched it, yeah. So I'm happy about being on this island here. I don't love having to give so many points Sunday night games. I always say they can be crazy, but the Chargers at home, probably not Big Ben there. You made all those great arguments. You had me picking the Chargers, and then you went with Pittsburgh. So I like Chris is with you, though. He's on the Steelers here as well. So interesting matchup on Sunday night. I know you'll be watching that one, of course, on News Channel 13. The Giants are going to have to wait till Monday night. Now, Tampa Bay coming off a surprising game last week. So they're at home here against the Giants, but that's a big number. Do they rebound and just blow the doors off, or do the Giants at least do enough? I assume you're not going to necessarily pick the Giants to win this game, but do you think they do enough to keep it within that 11.5 number?
I think they do enough. I mean, I can totally see this game going either way, not in terms of the final score, but in terms of the spread, right? I can see the Giants kind of hanging in there enough to keep it within, a touchdown or 10. But I could also see, stepping away from this game for, maybe and then coming back and seeing that it's a 25-point game or something in favor of Brady and the Bucs. So I'm worried about this one, but I think that's a big number. And despite Tampa being at home, I'm going to go with the Giants on this one.
Yeah, it is a big number, but it's not big enough for me because it's the kind of game where we're going to be sitting there at work Monday night, and it's like, oh, Tampa scored first. It's 7-0. Oh, Tampa scored again. It's 14-0. And, we're still in the first quarter, and all of a sudden that really big number is just evaporated. Like, at home, they're going to want to respond after the way they played last week. I just don't have enough confidence in the Giants, man. And Chris is with me on this one. We are both on the Bucs, but I like you picking the Giants, man.
I like being on the island. It's all right.
Yeah, you know what? If the island is the Giants covering 1 million points, you know what? Go for it. So let's look at the recap here. We've got here are all the matchups. Chris and Paul on the Colts in that game against the Bills. I'm on the island there. We are all on the Miami Dolphins against my lowly Jets. We're all on the Packers as well to go in and find a way to get a win at Minnesota. We're all on the Chiefs against the Cowboys. I'm on the island in the Steelers-Chargers matchup. I'm going to take the Chargers at home. And then Paulie, all by himself on the New York Giants. Chris and I both like Tampa Bay there. All right, when we come back on Onorato and Bagnardi, Paul and I are going to talk a little bit of hockey. Paulie is a big Islanders fan. They're off to a slower start this year. Not true for the red-hot Rangers. What does Paul think of them? And I'm going to ask him some questions about what you see him do every single day in our meteorology department. We'll be right back.
Hey folks, DJ with Professional Fire Restoration, and we've been turning crisis into calm for a half a century.
Imagine waking up one morning and having your house on fire. Nobody ever thinks it can happen to them, but it happened to my family. The first thing I did was call Professional Fire Restoration. From start to finish, DJ was there every step of the way. Thank God I made the right call. They turned crisis into calm for my family.
When only the best will do, you know who to call.
Professional fire restoration.
Teams, athletes, organizations. We're transforming the custom apparel industry through products and purpose. Claim your crown.
And now, back to Onorato and Bagnardi. Brought to you by Outfit House.
All right, back on Onorato and Bagnardi with special guest host Paul Caiano. Paulie, we're going to let this break play all the way through here. This is very exciting television here. Let me pull that down for you. All right. So, yeah, Chris pushes all the buttons, by the way. Can you tell? We've got a comment here that says, it's from Jason. Oh, I'm sorry, it's from Sam. He wants to know when you're going to the new arena. Show off that mug again. You got that Islanders mug. When are you getting down?
That's a great question. Yeah, here's my mug. It's a little blasted by the heat of the microwave, but I don't have tickets yet to any games, but that's not a problem for me. I usually try to do these things last minute when I can fit them in. We thought about going, a couple friends and I, for the opening night, which is this Saturday, by the way, but that's not going to happen for me, but I hope to get there before the end of the year.
All right. Mentioned it on the other side of the break. Rangers 10-3-3. A little bit surprising, right? A young team there. Your Islanders 5-6-2 after back-to-back trips to the conference championship. What are you thinking right now, early on in the NHL season, about your team and about the other New York team, the Rangers?
I mean, we have them exactly where we want them. I mean, I've been through this so many times with Ranger fans growing up. I mean, look, I'm not really worried about the Islanders too much for a few reasons. First of all, 5-6-2, they played the first 13 games on the road because the arena wasn't ready. So if you would have told me, hey, we're going to be around 500 coming back for our home games, and then we have the rest of the season with that unbalanced, home schedule, I would have signed up for it. The other thing is actually a two-part answer: Barry Trotz and Lou Lamoriello. I mean, these guys are so phenomenal. They know how to run a team. They know how to insert pieces when necessary. And the Islanders, I think, before long are going to right the ship. Not so much with adding a player. I think that's panicky, and I just don't think that they need that right now. I think they're still trying to find their new identity. They lost Nick Leddy. They traded him away, get rid of his salary. But, he's a big part of the team. He transported that puck. They're still trying to find guys to do that. They have a couple of younger guys in the lineup that still have to find their way, even though they were in the playoffs last year. So I still think this team, as it stands right now, is much better than this record. And now that we're coming home and they get used to the new arena, I think, even after this slow start, we'll be fine. As far as the Rangers go, 10-3-3, the Rangers have plenty of time to blow this. I mean, they're a good team. They have good players. I'm just joking. I mean, they're going to probably be in playoff contention this year, which is probably where they expect themselves to be, right? They had a couple of down seasons. They were adding pieces. They have a lot of younger guys that are really, really good. But it brings me back to a line I heard that I liked when the Islanders first started getting a sniff of the playoffs in the last few years, and it was from Dennis Potvin, longtime Islander, great, best defenseman, one of the best ever. And he said, you have to learn how to lose before you learn how to win. And that kind of stuck with me. And I think the Islanders have learned how to lose. I mean, they lost it in the conference finals 2 seasons in a row now. So for the Rangers, for that matter, I think they can contend. They can get a playoff spot, but I think this team is just way too young. And the style, the run and gun type style that they like to play, I don't think that's gonna mean a lot for them in the playoffs. I think that's gonna wind up hurting them, and they need to have some more experience before they can get to the point where I think the Islanders are at now, despite the records that you boldly are putting on the bottom of the screen.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. We are who they thought they were, right? All right, so we got a couple minutes here. You are a special guest host, but you're also a guest on the show. So I want to ask you some questions like I would if we had you on as a regular guest. You are well known, of course, across the capital region as a meteorologist. What is it that first really drove you into that? Was it, I know you have a passion for storm chasing and severe weather. Was that it?
At the time, I was just a kid, so I couldn't even leave my front porch. But I did like to go out to watch storms when I was a kid. I was like any other kid. I wanted to know if we were going to have a snow day, right? I wanted to know if the storm was going to be enough that I didn't have to do my homework that night. So I figured if I could predict that stuff, then I'm in a good spot. I always loved science. I always loved math, and storms just fascinated me. Things about earth science in general. I always asked myself the questions, why is this happening? And I got on that path, and I just loved it.
What would you say to people? Meteorologists get a bad rap, right? It's the weather guy's always wrong. I know what they're talking about. What would you say to people who don't really understand the science of forecasting, people who are maybe first to be critical about forecasting weather as opposed to the opposite?
You're predicting the future. So, if you look at it that way and you put yourselves in my shoes, it's not like the better meteorologist is right 100% of the time. We're all right pretty much the same. And it's only going to be as good as the science allows us to be. And when you think of scientists, you think of somebody who's always trying to improve and learn about what they're studying and what they're watching. So my goal is I'm never going to be right 100% of the time, but if I'm right 90% of the time, next year I want to be right 91% of the time. And give us a little slack. Understand that it's not an exact science, and we're doing the best we can. Things change. I think people don't realize that with the weather, it changes every hour, every day. We get so many different pieces of data that we include, and if you give us enough time to analyze everything, what you see coming out of our weather department, and I'll speak for myself, when I do the weather is the best you're going to get in this area. You want to know how hard it is to predict the future? There it is right there. That's how hard it is to predict the future. Chris, myself, and an assortment of viewers, week 11? So now 10 different viewers up to this point, all under 500 trying to predict the future there. So obviously that's how that goes. Trying. It's nothing worse than hearing from the sports department about how bad the weather forecast is. You're telling me yesterday's scores. You're telling me tomorrow's scores. And then when they change the sports and telling me tomorrow's scores, then we can talk. We're on the same playing field. That's right. How do you see technology advancing and evolving and changing what you do moving forward here in your career? Yeah, if you would have told me we would be at where we're at when I first started almost 30 years ago, I would have said you're crazy. But it's just incredible how much the processing, the computers have grown by leaps and bounds. You got these satellites now that can do remarkable things and take great pictures, and we do a better job observing the weather. Technology, it's just going to keep launching us into a higher level and allowing us to be better and better at what we do. And for that, I think the sky's the limit. Can we be perfect? No, but we can certainly, we're a lot better than we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and I expect that to continue. Well, Paul, thank you so much for your time, joining me on the show with Chris on vacation. Hopefully that guy needs another vacation so you can do it again soon. And thank all of you for watching Onorato and Bagnardi. We'll see you next week.